So Wolverine finally gets what he wants and gets to go face to face with the real Adamantine, not a host this time. But with this also being Legacy Comic number 400 here for Wolverine, we also get to see a few old faces and certain arcs here get closed while opening up some new ones, and the one that is next seems like it's going to be pretty good. So when we pick back up here on this issue, remember now, Wolverine was getting his behind handed to him here by Romulus, and Romulus has the luxury here of the Adamantine choosing to make him the host. And Wolverine reminds us here that the Adamantine wants to rid the world of adamantium, which it considers to be something between blasphemy and identity theft, and how it's been turning adamantium-wielding villains into golden-eyed zombies, using them to murder scientists and torch labs. But whatever it's done here to Romulus, it's definitely different. And Romulus is upset. He's like, you and I weren't made for this world of endless legislation and artificial food, Logan. We're beasts, warriors of tooth and claw. Ridding the world of adamantium is just the start. With the Adamantine's power, I will remake the earth, bring back the age of myth, an age of bloody glory and strength of arms, an age fit for men like us. And he continues on, he's like, yet at every turn you've sided with the artifice and weakness, tending to the wounded and letting enemies escape, befriending monsters you should slay, defending scrawny scientists. You've proven you aren't worthy of the Adamantine's vision, but maybe your daughter is. And that is what the Wolverine needed here to push him past the pain, to give in to his animal instincts. Because after all, a father always wants to protect his child. And Romulus realizes, he's like, okay, I see you got some fight, but all that rage, it won't help. You can't resist the Adamantine's power. But then Wolverine says, he's like, over 1,000 years old and still you never learned to shut your mouth. And it's right then and there where the Wolverine gets his claws inside of Romulus. Because even though Romulus is cocky, he was still able to get on the inside of him with his claws. Let's just say that Romulus is a little bit surprised and he yells out, no, as he's bleeding profusely. And he's like, but I am the worthy one. I am. But then the Adamantine begins to speak. Disappointing, it says. This one was not worthy of our gifts at all. And it's in that moment where the Adamantine begins to remove itself here off of Romulus. And he says to Wolverine, he's like, but you, champion, you may be. And this is the first time here that Wolverine has really come face to face directly with the Adamantine. And the Adamantine continues. Many champions have claimed to be one with their weapons, but you are truly united with yours. You are both wielder and weapon, and you cut down our avatar to save what mattered to you. Animal savagery with heroic purpose, false metal with true spirit. You are something new. Is that what this age needs? Tainted heroes made of tainted metal? Men who are also weapons? Now that we have been reawakened, we must know our purpose in this new world. And to know this world, we must make war in it ourselves. And this is when we begin to see the Adamantine for the first time take on a form of its own. And it doesn't do it as a human, it does it as this armored figure. And it begins to stand towering here over Wolverine. And for a second, Wolverine's face looks a little perplexed. He's like, hold on, the Adamantine? But then he's like, finally, it has a body to go with the name. Good. It makes it easier to kill you. And I'm like, Wolverine, you really want to charge at this Adamantine right now? But then the Adamantine fends him off easily, cocks him right in the face so you can see that blood spewing. And the Adamantine continues to give this soliloquy. It's like, our contest will come soon enough, but not this day. First, we must learn the truths of this new age. What is it to live in it? What is it to kill in it? Then, champion, we will return to finish this. And then the Adamantine just disappears. And Wolverine's like, well, like, what the heck was that? So Wolverine gets back to his daughter. And when he gets back up top here, Laura's like, yeah, these four, they just collapsed. Because remember, they were being possessed here by the Adamantine. And now that the Adamantine is left, I mean, it's just them left. And then Wolverine basically fills Laura and is like, yeah, I got the crap kicked out of me. The Adamantine, it got away. And that the shortest version is that it also took Romulus with it. And Laura wants to go after it. But Wolverine's like, it's really not that simple. Like, this is not some costume guy or anything like that. It's a force of nature. And although he does want to go after it, that's not something that he's going to do for today. So the decision is made then to just help the survivors that are there and then to get back to their friends. So when they get to the outside, they see the Wendigo and the Nightcrawler. They came to pick them up. And if you haven't been following the story before, this Wendigo here is a little bit different than the Wendigos that we've seen before. This is a child, basically, that's trapped in this Wendigo's body. He's not as primal, not as vicious, not as aggressive. And the Wolverine has been helping him to not be that way. So they get reacquainted a little bit here, but then in this next moment, we see the Wolverine wake up in this dark place. And he's asking himself the question, he's like, I wake up, but it's too slowly. And that's when he realizes that this is the first sign that something is going on, that something is wrong. He's like, I'm an animal. I don't do the sleepy-eyed, leisurely yawning thing. Whenever I wake up, I snap awake, which means that I've been drugged. But he also acknowledges it's like, but that's not necessarily easy to do because he's taking on sedative dosages here that have killed horses. And that type of stuff barely usually gives him a buzz. So whoever it is that drugged him knows him too well. So the Wolverine then pops his claws and he begins to notice some things. He's like, okay, this room is some sort of an old industrial space repurposed into a cell, and how the door though should be enough for him to be able to cut through. So that's what he starts doing. He starts slashing and slashing and slashing away. And while he's doing that, he catches a scent and he realizes that it's the scent here of the Wendigo that he's been babysitting. He can't tell exactly where it is, but he knows that he's nearby. And being that he's a Wendigo, that can't be good. He's able to bust down through the doors and he begins to sort of kind of recall, like, how did he even get here in the first place? The last thing that he remembered here is that he was in Arizona and that he just said goodbye to Laura and Kurt. And then he set out here to track down the Adamantine, even though he didn't even have any leads yet. He crashed over at a cheap motel and then he was beginning to nod off. And then he thinks to himself, gas. It must have been gas. Somebody must have gassed us with something really strong, and to the point where it was also odorless, even to Wolverine. So this is where he starts to realize that his captor definitely knows a lot about himself. But Wolverine didn't have to wait too long because the person who did this, they immediately pop up. And who is it? It's Arcade. But then immediately here, the Wolverine with them claws out starts slashing here at Arcade. But here's the thing, that was a hologram. And this is usually Arcade's thing, right? He likes to put people into death traps for his own sort of entertainment. So this is not really surprising. It's just kind of weird that this is happening here in this particular issue, but either way, let's move on. So the Wolverine wants to know one thing. He's like, yo, where's the Wendigo? So Arcade shows him. He shows him that he's here strapped to a chair. But then at the same time, there's also innocent civilians that are right in front of him as well. And they look freaked the F out because, like, I mean, wouldn't you be? And Arcade lets him know that those restraints are a special kind of vibranium alloy that even the Wendigo can't break, and how the chair is loaded with all sorts of fun toys designed to force a fight or flight response through pain. And that to top it all off, that they're pumping the poor schmuck full of hunger-inducing drugs. So the question is, how much torture can the Wendigo take before he loses it and completely starts biting off heads? Our totally voluntary and definitely not abducted studio audience is dying to find out. And then he tells Wolverine, he's like, listen, these bonds, they're on a timer of 5 minutes. So you better get to him before it's too late. And to top it all off, now Wolverine has to go through all these different obstacles. But at the same time, Arcade has set up mics along Wolverine's path to make sure that every single time that Wolverine gets hurt, that the Wendigo can hear it. Now, the first obstacle that he steps into here is he sees a room that is made up to look like the laboratory where the Weapon X experiments were performed on him, which to be fair is very uneventful because all Wolverine does is just chop his way all the way through it. I mean, there's not nothing really else that there is to it. But at the same time, it took time for him to be able to do that. And then we get over to this next obstacle here. But this one is more of an emotional battle. But this one right here is a battle of the heart because he sees a past love, the Silver Fox. And he remembers how she loved him with a warmth that he didn't deserve and couldn't live without until Sabretooth murdered her. It ain't really her, of course, as he knows. It's just another robot. But Arcade even figured out how to make it smell like she did. And there's more obstacles that come along. We see Jean Grey. We also see the X-Men. Well, actually multiple Cyclopses. And Wolverine continues to pursue and continue to keep fighting through it until he realizes that he comes up against this place that looks like a wall. And that's when he breaks through it. And when he does, he gets into the main arena where he sees the Wendigo, who screams out to him. But here's the thing, the Wolverine was too late because the timer goes off. And those restraints, Well, they snap off the Wendigo, and immediately he hits the Wolverine because he can't control himself. So Wolverine does what he does best, and he punches him right back in the face and then uppercuts his behind. Because at this point, as he says, he's trying to beat some sense into the kid, hoping that the shock will snap him out of it. But all it does is that the fight just serves to get Wolverine's bloodlust going. But he manages to calm himself down, and he manages to calm the kid down just in time, or at least he thought. And that's when the Wendigo clocks this dude right in the face, slashes him a couple more times, elbows him onto the ground. I'm like, damn, my man's taking a beating today. Between Romulus, Adamantine, and Wendigo, it was a rough day for this guy. But then the Wendigo now turns to the civilians, and with one final straw, Wolverine says, Leonard, don't let him win. And it's in that moment when the Wendigo stops. But now the Wendigo's pissed, man. So he's like, he turns his face and he turns his gaze over the arcade. And it's in this moment when Wolverine realizes, oh shoot, the Wendigo just learned how to say no? Okay then. But the thing is, for Wolverine, Arcade had another plan. He traps him there in a safety glass finished with adamantium dust. And Arcade knows that his claws can cut through it. But the thing is, he also has a backup plan. He starts spewing out some acid right inside of that dome. And the way that he puts it is that, hey, your healing factor means you've got a whole minute or two before you're nothing but a skeleton before you can get out of that thing. But Arcade forgot about one wild card, which was Leonard. So Leonard pops in and starts chomping down here at Arcade. Meanwhile, Wolverine that thing is getting filled up with acid and he can't slash it fast enough. And you can see that his legs, they're starting to dissolve with the acid. Wolverine knows that in another half a minute, it will be eaten away here at his flesh, then his organs, and then he would probably still just survive again. But at the same time, bad things would happen in the meantime. All right, either way, let's move on. So with the Wendigo being concerned for the Wolverine, he jumps back to him and then he starts trying to punch through the adamantium dome. And he's able to do so, but the problem is that acid that was filling up inside that dome, now that thing starts to spew out, and that spews out here onto the Wendigo. And because that acid melted him, the Wendigo just drops dead. And the Wolverine is thinking, he's like, my own body's on fire, but I push past the pain. Leonard's heartbeat is gone and I can't hear him breathing. It doesn't make sense. The acid wouldn't do this. What the hell is this? But then it's in that moment when the Wendigo disappears and then the kid comes out. Listen, man, I gotta pause here. Some crazy stuff is going on in this particular issue, you hear me? But I'm gonna just keep on pushing through this, okay? So long story short here, Wolverine ends up healing over time. He brings Leonard here back to his home. And it's been a long time since Leonard had seen his mom. His mom had put out so many messages and calls to try to see if she could find her long lost son. Wolverine is able to have a home cooked meal and dinner with Leonard and also his mom. But while he's going through this, the woman continues to express her gratitude towards the Wolverine and how she's glad to have Leonard home because the kids need their moms. And he nods and he pretends the words don't rip him up inside. He remembers how he's luckier than most ex-soldiers, that his healing factor means that he ain't got old wounds that start hurting again out of nowhere, at least not on the outside. But some wounds that he got, they were before he became a soldier, before he even became a man. As soon as his mutation emerged, his mother called him an animal and cast him out of the house. And then she took her own life. And how on Mother's Day, when people start going on about everything their moms did for them, he usually gets real quiet. So he finishes up here. He helps them out with some cleaning. But then we see him crashing back here at that motel. He got a nice little 6-pack of beer with him. And while he's trying to figure out his next move here to go get the adamantine, he hears a knock on his door. And he's like, hold on, how would I be getting a knock on my door considering, I'm at a motel? But the problem here for Wolverine is not the fact that somebody's really knocking. It's the fact that the person that's knocking doesn't have a scent, and how he didn't smell anyone approaching or leaving. He didn't hear anyone at all. And that's not natural. And when he opens the door, he doesn't see anyone. All he sees is a letter. And the letter says, "My dearest and most precious James, I've been told that you now answer to the name Logan. The significance of that choice racks my heart with guilt, forced as it was by my treacherous hand. Still, I find it impossible to think of you as anything other than my sweet and loving James. So James, I shall call you in this missive. I know, beloved boy, that my horrid treatment of you has rendered void any claim I might have to your familial loyalties. But our family's enemies are closing in on me, and I cannot face the threat they pose alone. So though I have no right to do so, I must write on this ominous feeling evening to ask for your help, James. I don't doubt that you resent me deeply and that your first impulse would be to refuse me, but I hope at least that you will make some time to meet me again after all these years, if only to learn why I was forced to treat you so poorly, as well as the circumstances of my remarkable, nay, miraculous survival. And in this moment, the Wolverine, he damn near collapses as memories from his earliest days flood his senses. The feelings that he's buried for more than a century come clawing out of their graves. Every rational part of him knows it's impossible, but the scent, it's not rational. And the letter in his hands, they smell like the very first scent that he ever took in. And he continues to read, as it said, with apologetic affection, I remain eternally your remorseful and repentant mother, Elizabeth Howlett. And the Wolverine looks on and just says, Ma? But before this ends, we get a little bit of a special here by DWJ, Daniel Warren Johnson. And the story starts off by saying years ago, and we see this man pry open a door with this baby with arrows inside of it. And the narration starts by saying, have you heard of a tale of the vengeful spirit? And the voice continues on, it haunts the ones who would do evil in this world, like you. And the person who he's talking to says, no one permitted you to speak, old man. We have fought well today. I care not for your pathetic stories. And the old man continues. He says, tell me, if the only bodies you leave behind are women and children, does that still count as fighting? So then the man gets upset and snaps. It clocks the old man in the face. And he says these words. He says, you think I care about some vengeful peasant, one pathetic man? So then the old man replies back and says, but there are no men. A man dashes to his target, lustful for the kill, for justice. But a spirit does not run. Now, this is a mini series here called The Tale of Wolverine. And we hear the narration of the old man again that says it walks a slow march. Every footstep a careful laid plan towards your doom. So the other guy replies back and says, filthy, insolent old fool. While another one says, my lord, an armed figure approaches from the outskirts of the village. So then the man with the sword comes out and says, then what are you waiting for? Kill them. And they fire their arrows at this man that was marching. And they think that would stop him, but it doesn't. He stands tall. And then he begins to pull out his blade. And as the men that come at him, he slashes them one by one and takes all of them out with ease, to the point where the cocky one says, bring me my horse. And then he begins to charge at the Wolverine. But the Wolverine slashes the horse in half. The man falls off his horse. And then he tries to talk to the Wolverine and he says, speak, man, speak. Spirit, what is it you want? Do you know who I am? I have raised mountains. I have conquered castle and king and claimed thousands of women. I do as I please and I am rewarded for my pillaging. You don't deserve steal. But then in that moment, the Wolverine pops those claws and surges them right into the man as he says, just sinew and bone. And then the old man says, he says, spirit, your task is over. Your quest completed. Will you release your swords and find peace? And then these sad words, all he says is, I cannot drop my swords. I am cursed. Blood is a part of me. It always has been. It finds me everywhere. Always, even in a place as beautiful as this. So if I'm being honest here, overall, everything that I'm looking at, I'm a bit disappointed, right? I don't like how they closed the Adamantine arc. Additionally, I am happy though that they did close the Wendigo arc. I feel like they tried to jam pack too many things in this one particular issue, but I still wanted to cover it because it gave us a little bit of a conclusion here. But now this reveal here of the Wolverine's mother was so unexpected. Like, where did that come from? And then also this little mini story right here was amazing. I would love to hear what your thoughts are down below in the comments here on this particular issue. Leave a like on this video here for the YouTube algorithm so that this will reach a wider audience. Hit the notification bell so that you know when the videos do go live. Subscribe if you are brand new here to the channel. Also, check out the links down below in the description here where you can join our Discord, where you can also join our Patreon membership and support the channel here, even at our lowest tier, which is just $1 a month. Also, check out our merch store where we have some new merch that actually just popped up here on the channel. That's also down below as well. We appreciate you watching, and as always, thanks so much for kicking it with Keeping It Comic. Bye.